Hello everyone. Today I wanted to do a author highlight on one of the most influential authors for me, C.S. Lewis. So I'll start by giving a little biography of C.S. Lewis and then talk about his books. So Clive Staples Lewis was born on November 29th, 1895 in Belfast, Ireland. He had one older brother who they called Warnie, and they would live together for most of their lives. There was two things in his childhood that I thought that were very interesting. One, he loved the Beatrix Potter books, and those would have a lot of influence on him as he kind of wrote fantasy and children's books. So you'll kind of see that in the Narnia books. The second thing is that there was an incident when he was 4 years old. He had a dog named Jaxie, and the dog went out into the street and was killed, and C.S. Lewis was so sad that he told his family, "Call me Jaxie." So as time went on, they kept calling him Jaxie, but it was shortened to Jack, and for most of his life, he would be known as Jack Lewis. So if you've seen any of his writing or seen any just movies or biographies about him, you'll see that a lot of times they'll call him Jack Lewis, and that's one of the reasons why. He would be very involved in the academic world in Oxford and Cambridge College and Magdalen College in England, and it was on May 11th, 1926, that he met J.R.R. Tolkien. And with J.R.R. Tolkien and with several other writers, they kind of formed a group called the Inklings, and they would meet at a pub called the Eagle and Child and just talk about their writing, talk about philosophy, and things like that. I've had friends who have gone to Oxford and they've gone to that pub and had like lunch at that pub, and I'm so jealous that they were able to go there where just these great thinkers and writers where they got these ideas. And it was because of his friendship with J.R.R. Tolkien that C.S. Lewis converted to Christianity, Anglicanism, and which influenced most of his writings and his books. So C.S. Lewis wrote about 30 books, and they have been translated into just over 30 languages. So they're just all over the world. I think I've read about maybe 20, at least 20 of his books. So at least 75% of his books that I've read. In the early 1950s, he met Joy Davidson. She was American. She was divorced, and she came from the Jewish faith, but she had converted to Christianity, so she started corresponding with C.S. Lewis, and through that, she came to England to meet him, and they fell in love, and they got married. She had two boys, Douglas and David, and they would be with her just during her marriage with C.S. Lewis. Douglas, her son Douglas, is still very involved in the C.S. Lewis estate even now. And there's a lot of things that pop up about C.S. Lewis in the Chronicles of Narnia, and you'll see that a lot of times that Douglas Gresham is part of just the framework and a contributor to a lot of this stuff. They were married from about Joy Davidson and C.S. Lewis were married from about 1956 to 1960 when she died of cancer. Their relationship and their love story has been made into plays and movies, most notably Shadowlands. The version I like the best is the one with Anthony Hopkins, which is really good if you kind of want to get that story and get the story of Jack and Joy. C.S. Lewis would die on November 22nd, 1963, the same day as U.S. President John F. Kennedy and author Aldous Huxley. So let's talk about his books. So I'm kind of going to divide this into little sections. The first part is his non-Narnia books, and then I'll talk about his Narnia books, and then some books that I want to read of his. So I'm going to talk about 3 books of his that I've read that I've really enjoyed. The first one is A Grief Observed. This is a book where he kind of wrote it, I believe, after the death of Joy. And one thing I was reading about it is that it was first published under another name. And he had friends recommend this book to him after Joy had died, to kind of help him through that. So I thought that was very interesting. It's a very short book. It's about less than 100 pages, but it's very good. It's just about his grief and his thoughts on that. One book that I just really, really, really liked was The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis. And this book is divided into four sections, and he talks about just the different loves that people or humans have. So there are love from a parent to child, love from a man to a woman, a love from friendship, and love of country. So he's very concise when he writes, and I just really like that when it came to writing this. I'm a hopeless romantic, and there are just many. I have like little underlying things in here. There was one part that I really liked, which it said, where is it? No, I can't find it right now. Can't believe I circled so much in here. But there's a phrase in here that I really liked. It was, if you're lucky enough to fall in love with your best friend. And not only did I think that was like so sweet, but it was also, I think, part how he felt about Joy and their relationship. So I really like this. So if you want a book just about the nature of love and kind of give you perspective on all that, this is such a great book. So the last book kind of in this not Narnia books that is so good is the Screwtape Letters. I have the book somewhere, but I can't find it, so I have kind of the audio dramatization of it that I'll show you guys. The Screwtape Letters is about a senior devil writing letters to a subordinate devil, and just how he tries to get him to ensnare the human. And it is kind of funny, but it also makes you think just throughout the book. This dramatization is done by the guy who plays Gollum in The Lord of the Rings, Andy Serkis. He does the voice of Screwtape in here, and it is so good. So if you like the character of Gollum and you like Andy Serkis and just his voice, he does such a great job on dramatizing the Screwtape Letters and just like getting that voice of like the devil when they're talking. So this also just makes you think. And that's kind of one of the things that I like about C.S. Lewis's writing. They make you think, and he's just so concise with his writing. So the next little section that I want to talk about is the Narnia books. I have many childhood memories of reading these books. The last one, The Last Battle, is still very emotionally hard for me to read whenever I read it. I've reread the series several times, but every time I read this one, it's like, so good. So there's 7 books just about the fantasy land of Narnia. Like I said before, Beatrix Potter was influential in how he thought about fantasy and things like that. We have talking animals, we have people from our world going into Narnia. Some of my top 3 favorite of the Narnia books are The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Magician's Nephew, and The Horse and His Boy. So like the first three, those are just my favorite. And these, because I read them as a child, just kind of influenced my love of fantasy and just love of storytelling, because they're just so good. One kind of side note is that The Horse and His Boy is dedicated to his stepchildren, Douglas and David Gresham. So I thought that was kind of neat to see. Kind of one of the most popular dedications in the Narnia books is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where he dedicates it to Lucy Barfield. And Lucy Barfield was actually his goddaughter. So that was nice too. So those are some of like my top favorite C.S. Lewis books, but he has so many, and like I said, I think I've read maybe about, out of his 30-ish books, I've probably read about 20 of them. But there are several that I have not read that I really want to read, and he actually wrote a space trilogy. And it's called Out of the Silent Planet, Herlandia, and that Hideous Strength. And I like sci-fi, and I've never had a chance to just like sit down and read his sci-fi series. So I found out that my library has them on audio, so hopefully I can get those soon and be able to like read some more of C.S. Lewis's books, because I want to kind of see how he does sci-fi. So yeah, so that's my little talk on C.S. Lewis. He has so many great books that I just kind of had to narrow it down to my personal just favorites. But yeah, so if you have read C.S. Lewis, if you like C.S. Lewis, let me know in the comments below which ones you like the best. He's written a lot of just apologetics, thinking books, fantasy books. So yeah, so let me know in the comments below which are your favorite C.S. Lewis books. One exciting thing that I really, really liked is I found out just this past week or so that Netflix has gotten the rights to the Narnia series. So they are going to be doing series and movies of the Narnia series, which I'm really excited about because they've kind of started doing Narnia books or Narnia movies before, but I think if Netflix does them, they should hopefully come out really, really good. Because I really want to see a movie of The Magician's Nephew and The Horse and His Boy, because those are some of my favorites, and they've never done a movie of those. So hopefully Netflix does it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.